It's shaping up to be a very hectic week for national politics, as Congress hurdles towards the deadline to either fund the government or shut it down with no deal in sight. There's also the second Republican presidential debate. Top GOP candidates will again go head-to-head without frontrunner Donald Trump, who started his week lobbing baseless accusations of treason against outgoing chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, and hinting at the idea of his execution. Plus, the former president is now dealing with even more legal trouble than he already was, after a New York judge ruled that Trump and his family are liable for years and years of fraud and canceled the Trump Organization's business license. But let's start with the legal troubles of New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, as more and more of his fellow Democrats urge him to resign over his indictment on federal bribery and corruption charges. My next guest is one of those Democrats, Congressman Seth Moulton of Salem. Congressman, thanks for joining us today.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. And our viewers should know that Seth, the congressman, and I were college classmates, and I supported his first campaign many, many years ago. So, Congressman, let's get started. Just why did you call for Senator Menendez to resign?
Well, I think it's plainly obvious. I mean, the allegations are deeply serious. This is not the first time that we've heard allegations like this about Senator Menendez. And we just need to have higher standards of ethics and decency in our Congress. In the House and the Senate, people should look up to their representatives to be models of following the highest ethical standards. And I think that's clearly not the case here.
So, Congressman, when I went through the accusations, what concerned me, I guess, is that under the standard the Supreme Court introduced under McDonnell, where they said that giving a sitting governor a Rolex and then getting favors from him is actually not bribery, it's actually not clear that Senator Menendez will be convicted, which makes me wonder, is it time for the Congress and the Senate to step in and pass new and tightened ethics laws, which they have not done in the wake of the Supreme Court's rulings?
Well, I mean, we absolutely should be tightening the ethics rules around the Supreme Court. I mean, there's no question most Americans don't trust the Supreme Court the way that they used to because of these gross allegations of ethical violations, mainly about Justice Thomas.
So, Congressman, I don't mean around the Supreme Court. The ethics laws that would apply to like members of Congress, to tighten them so that giving gifts or whatever.
No,
yeah.
Look, I'm not a legal scholar, so I don't know if giving a Rolex to a governor counts as an ethical violation or not. From a legal perspective, I just know that I wouldn't do that. And I don't think a senator should do it, too. And I think most Americans would agree with me.
So, I mean, one of the striking things about the dynamics around these accusations is while something like 30 Democratic senators have declared that Senator Menendez should resign, his Republican colleagues are doing quite the opposite, from Marco Rubio tweeting yesterday in saying that the allegations against the senior senator from New Jersey are nasty and the evidence offered difficult to explain away. But in America, guilt is decided by a jury, not politicians in fear of their party losing a Senate seat. So what is going on with Republicans defending a Democratic senator and Democrats telling him it's time to go?
Well, look, I'm not doing a political calculation here at all. I looked at the allegations and said this does not meet the standard that we should expect of a United States senator, and so he should step down. And for me, it's pretty black and white like that. Yes, we have a criminal statute and a long-held tradition of justice where you're innocent until proven guilty. That matters for the court of law, but there's also the court of public opinion. And look, Senator Menendez has served New Jersey for a long time, and he's had his ups and downs. But I think it's pretty hard to say under these circumstances that New Jersey wouldn't be better off with a different United States senator, and that the country wouldn't be better off with someone who had higher ethical standards. I also note that the colleague of mine, Andy Kim, someone that I helped get elected as a new generation of service-oriented leaders in the House, has already announced that he wants to run for the seat. And when you compare their records and their ethical standards, I don't think there's any comparison.
So is there anything the party can do to force Senator Menendez to step down, or is this going to be limited to statements?
My understanding is that it's limited to statements. Again, I'm not a legal scholar here. I don't know what the particular rules are in New Jersey. But what I hope is that Senator Menendez will do the right thing, save the constituents that he represents, the pain and arduousness of going through a trial where I don't think he honestly serve his constituents all that well. I mean, I know how hard I work just to try to meet the needs of my constituents, and I do that without having to deal with all these legal troubles that he now has encountered. So I just don't think it's, the right thing for him to continue in this position. And obviously there are a lot of Democrats who have joined me. I was one of the first, but there are a lot more who have joined me in the call for him to resign.
So that's not all. We also have the former president of the United States and the overwhelming favorite to be the next Republican nominee for president of the United States calling for the execution of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Yes, I mean, General Milley, of course, the former chairman, just stepping down, and this is not a banana republic. We are a country that stands up for basic values and principles of human rights and justice and everything else. One of which is that we respect the service of the members of our military when they're standing up for our national security. And we don't attack them because we don't agree with their particular politics or perceived politics. In this case, of course, Donald Trump is attacking Chairman Milley because Chairman Milley was very concerned about the national security of the United States of America when Donald Trump was inciting an insurrection. So those are just the facts. I would be pretty concerned about that too. But, the point that I want to make here is in talking about Senator Tuberville, this guy in Alabama who's been holding up hundreds of nominations and promotions of military leaders and in effect decimating a generation of officers as a result. I said in the context of that, we have a remarkable situation in the United States today where the Republican Party has become a danger to our national security. And now we just have further evidence of this because the person who is overwhelmingly leading the race to be the Republican nominee for president next year is saying that we should execute the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The Republican Party is dangerous for national security right now, and that's a problem for all of us.
So, what does it say about us as a country that this statement by the former president, it barely made the news?
Well, it says two things. First of all, it says that we just become used to this behavior of the former president. And that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad that our standards have sunk so low that a former president could say things like this. And as you said, it barely makes the news. It's not even acknowledged. But I think the other part of it is that this really is dangerous for our national security. These kinds of statements. And so, there may be a part where people are trying to not trump it up too much, pardon the pun, and make a big deal of this. Because when we're trying to, deter the threat of China in the Pacific, when we're trying to help Ukraine win a war against this illegal invasion by the war criminal Putin, we have a lot of national security concerns around the world. We need to have our domestic house in order. And the fact that someone who incited an insurrection is now running again for president, something that we've never had happen before in our history, that should really give Americans pause. And it is a threat to our national security.
So it's not just Donald Trump. Your colleague, Paul Gosar, put out a message in his newsletter, his taxpayer-funded newsletter, in which he said, in a better society, Quislings like General Milley would be hung. He had one boss, President Trump, and instead he was secretly meeting with Pelosi and coordinating with her to hurt Trump. How this traitor remains in office is a question we need answered. While I do want to praise him for using the word quisling, which is now quite obscure, I think your colleague is using this kind of rhetoric right now, through taxpayer-funded channels. Do you ever run into Paul Gosar on the floor of the House or in the? What are you going to say to him the next time you do?
I don't talk to him. And, when I first ran for office, I'm sure you remember this. Yeah. I talked a lot about the need to have more bipartisanship in America, the fact that we need to get things done by working across the aisle. It's the only way to make lasting change. And I think Americans want that. Americans are tired of the division in our politics. and in our country. And I've been able to do great things by working across the aisle, like Pass 988, the National Mental Health Hotline that I co-authored with a fellow veteran across the aisle, a Republican from Utah, Chris Stewart. And so some people would say when I said, okay, well, I want to do more bipartisan stuff, they say, well, how do you work with someone like Ted Cruz? Or they could have said Paul Gosar. And the answer to that question is very simple. I don't work with Republicans like that. I work with Republicans like Chris Stewart, who are reasonable, thoughtful, people who put the country first. Even though we disagree on the politics, we disagree on a lot of policies, I'm able to work together with Chris Stewart because he's someone that I can actually trust. You can't trust Paul Gosar. You can't trust Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, these characters who get a lot of attention on TV, but are really detrimental to our country. And so I don't work with them. I don't talk with them. I try to get things done with Republicans who can actually make a positive difference in our country.
So, Congressman, the question I want to ask you is, there are plenty of Republicans who you want to work with, but they are willing to work with these people. So,
some of them are, some of them are not. I tell you, right now we're lunging towards a government shutdown. And the reality is that the reason we're going into a government shutdown is because the Speaker of the House has become beholden, I would say subservient, to a small group of dangerous extremists in the Republican Party. But if instead Speaker McCarthy would take the bill that's already passed the Senate, with Democrats and Republicans joining together to put together a package to get us through the shutdown. If he would just take up that bill and give us an honest vote on it in the House, he would find a lot of Republicans, like the ones that I want to work with, joining together with Democrats to avert this shutdown, to move us forward, and to help continue taking on the challenges that face our country, of which there are a lot today. So the reality is that the Republicans in the House are hurtling us towards a shutdown, but most Republicans don't want that. The most Republicans I know would like to join together with Democrats to get us out of it, which is always how these end, by the way. The Republican leadership always puts us in a position where we might have a government shutdown. It's always Democrats who join together with moderate, reasonable Republicans to get us out of it. The problem today, of course, is that the Speaker doesn't want to do that. He's so scared of these extremists, scared for his own hide, that he doesn't even want to put a compromise bill on the floor for a vote.
Well, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Congressman. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.